As Q2 is coming to a close, we would like to discuss a successful engagement we are completing for our client in North Carolina. This was a disaster recovery and resiliency engagement. This was not just about policies and procedures. This was about infrastructure readiness, recovery documentation, risk and remediation, and transfer back to the IT owners as a business as usual culture. In order to do this successfully, we needed to have 9 parallel work streams. Now that we're concluding this project and transitioning back to the IT teams, we would like to discuss each of these work streams to give you an understanding of how we got there. If you are a CIO or IT leader and want to move from a reactive response to an embedded process, please listen in and see how another of our clients was successful in doing so. When we started, the infrastructure response planning was fragmented. Ownership was spotty. Standard operating procedures were inconsistent, and the design and testing of DR was not part of a business as usual culture. So we decided to break down this engagement into 9 focused work streams. The first work stream was the disaster recovery capacity planning. This was to ensure that the disaster recovery data center had enough infrastructure to bring up the Tier 0, Tier 0.5, and Tier 1 applications. It started with some calculations on how much hardware was required. It then created a budget, and then after that we helped with the procurement, the implementation, and the smoke testing of all the equipment. This ensured that the DR data center was ready for any recovery exercises. The second work stream was the SOP documentation and responsibility transfer. This took the existing corporate DR policy and broke it down into small, digestible chunks for the IT and infrastructure team to understand and to own. The third work stream was recovery exercise transformation. This was to ensure that the existing recovery exercises were not just a checkbox activity. Everybody needed to understand the scope and the goals for the outcome. Everything needed to be documented appropriately so that it could be auditable and that everybody can get credit for the event. The fourth work stream is tech service process implementation. We helped harden the recovery runbook process and ensured that there were BAU processes and metrics in order to keep everything up to date. This included over 250 recovery documents. We needed to work with the infrastructure subject matter experts. Once completed, we helped drive them through the review and approval process. The fifth work stream was application recovery process. In parallel to the tech service process implementation, we needed to map business processes and understand interdependencies so that we can not only just bring up applications, but we can bring up the associated services. The sixth work stream was DR risk remediation. The major goal of this engagement was to reduce the overall number of DR-related risks. Some of them had existed for years. We were able to either close or bring to planning of closure 90% of the existing DR-related risks. As part of this work, we reviewed the risk framework to make sure that everybody understood the planning, the remediation, the acceptance, and the closure of each risk. The seventh work stream was SOP and standards rollout. In order to ensure that all of these efforts were not lost over time, we needed to make sure that there was a consistent and repeatable way to store and maintain these documents. This included executing a plan and getting leadership buy-in. The eighth work stream were cyber and loss scenarios. As the program continued, it was decided that we needed to include specific cyber loss scenarios. These were things that happen outside of a typical physical disaster. This would allow our client to be ready for any breach or outage event. The ninth and final work stream was the infrastructure readiness transfer. This is where we took over 60 artifacts, ensured they were documented and stored, and transitioned back to the appropriate IT owners. This will allow for the proper business as usual culture that is necessary to maintain their DR readiness. This disaster recovery and resiliency engagement was not just checking a compliance box. It was about making resiliency operational and using a business as usual mentality. We transitioned full ownership with our partnership with the infrastructure and recovery and resilience teams. This work stream will be closed this month. All documentation is finalized, all transfers are complete, and they are ready to go. If your organization is not just thinking about disaster recovery as an audit item, but as a muscle that you can flex and grow, contact us. We have done it before, we can do it again.